The train writes history. Dear brothers and sisters, we are waiting for the heavenly Jerusalem. And before our eyes, we have Jerusalem in Israel. It all started here, and it all should end here. Here where the Babylonians, the Mandanites, came from the wetlands between the Tigris and the Euphrates, the Sassanids, Egyptians, Arabs, and Jews appeared. Here is the Mount of Olives, where many Jews want to be buried because, as they say, here the day of destruction dawns, when the youngest day begins. Jews want to be close to the Golden Gate. There was a gate in the same place as today over 2,000 years ago. What remains of it are fragments dating back to the times of Herod the Great and lying below the level of today's structure. The ancient gate opened directly into the area of Jerusalem Temple. Immediately behind it was a staircase of 12 steps leading to a platform on which the women's temple courtyard stretched on this side. It was surrounded by cloisters which were entered through another gate called Beautiful. The Latin name Aurea, golden, is said to have originated from a distortion of its Greek name Horaia, which was then transferred to the name of a nearby gate in the city walls. After the Romans destroyed the temple in 90, the gate was rarely used, and in 135, after the defeat of another anti-Roman uprising, it was demolished, like the entire city fortification of that time. The gate was built anew on its former site, probably during the reign of the Byzantine Emperor Justinian I. After the destruction caused by the earthquake in 810, the gate was permanently closed. It was only opened by Christian crusaders in 1102. However, it was only opened twice a year, once during Palm Sunday and the second time during the Feast of the Exaltation of the Cross. This was only related to the passage through ceremonial processions related to these holidays. After the Muslim army of Saladin captured Jerusalem in 1187, the Golden Gate was permanently closed again. The old city of Jerusalem is surrounded by defensive walls. They were built by the Turks in the 16th century, largely in place of earlier fortifications that had not existed for over 2 centuries. There are 8 gates in the walls. The oldest of them, called the Golden Gate, has been unused and bricked up for a long time. Despite this, it enjoys widespread attention. The Golden Gate, the Golden Gate is located on the eastern side of the Old Town, in the line of walls stretching along the Kidron Valley. The gate has been bricked up for centuries. From the Kidron Valley side, there is a Muslim cemetery in front of it, adjacent to the city walls. Over the years, however, events related to the Last Judgment began to be associated with this building. According to Muslim beliefs, the judgment will take place at the Dome of the Rock Mosque, and then souls will go to paradise through the Golden Gate. Behind the gate there will be a bridge over the depths of hell, through which only the souls of the righteous will be able to pass to paradise. Hence the gate's next name, Paradise Gate. Another legend says that the Messiah will enter the former temple square through this gate. Therefore it was walled up and covered with a cemetery to prevent the entry of false prophets. Also, some Jews believe that the gate will be open on Judgment Day. Jews base their beliefs on the prophecy of the book of Ezekiel, which says that the gate is to be closed because God has passed through it and in the future only the ruler can sit there. In Christian apocryphal texts, the gate was the scene of the meeting of Mary's parents, Joachim and Anna. Jesus Christ entered Jerusalem through this gate just before his suffering. Christians commemorate this entry on Palm Sunday every year. From the Mountain of Olives, Jesus ascended into heaven and opened hope for eternal life. The fate of the world was written here. Everything should end here. Jesus remained with us from then on through his mother, and the day of judgment over the world began here. I am convinced of this by the mosaic with a view of Jerusalem completed in 16th century, which is located above one of the entrances to the Roman Colosseum. Almost no other region of the world fascinates Westerners more than the Orient. The Middle East is the cradle of the world's three major monotheistic religions. Although today we associate this region with the war and terror, it was and is also a place of cultural and religious diversity. The nicest ones. Today I once again set out on a journey to fascinating places that shed light on the early history of Christianity. In what is now Lebanon, I would like to visit the monumental ruins of Baalbek, the huge temple of Jupiter. Has Christianity taken over elements of older cultures here? This legacy of the ancient Near East is still alive in Iraq. There we can track down the Mandeans, followers of an ancient religion whose supreme prophet is John the Baptist, and who still perform certain rituals as they did in the time of Christ. A little further north, near the modern capital of Iraq, Baghdad, we can travel back in time to the Sassanid Empire, who worshipped not the cross but fire in the magnificent remains of gigantic palace complexes. To this day, the so-called Zoroastrians, who refer to the prophet Zoroaster, who lived in the 1st or 2nd millennium before Christ, and whose teaching had a profound influence on the religions of the Orient. In the city of Mosul, destroyed by the Islamic State, and in Cairo, Egypt, I would like to follow in the footsteps of the Eastern Church, where the Christians of the Middle East have preserved the specific form of faith and beliefs, which are still different from those in the West today. During my previous visits to Egypt, I was able to celebrate Latin liturgy in the Egyptian Coptic Church. The basis of our religiosity lies in human psychology and neurology, argues Anderson Thompson, a psychiatrist. And he cites scientific evidence to support the thesis that man created the gods, and not the other way around. In the era of higher technology, secular views prevail. On these days, professors discuss topics related to the age of the universe. Black holes are growing, the entropy disorder of the universe is increasing. Is there something outside the universe? The layman answers, F within which we can move. Even though the universe, as a balloon, has a certain surface area, the universe is everything that exists. Simply put, there is nothing outside of it. We are overwhelmed by the prose of the richness of life. However, we are already convinced that imagination is more important than knowledge because this latter is limited. Therefore, it is madness to keep doing the same thing and expecting different results, Albert Einstein said. And he began to create something new. He formulated the special theory of relativity in 1905. It describes how time, space, and physical phenomena behave in different references reference frames moving at constant speed relative to each other. In our era, another genius, Stephen Hawking, awakens physicists, set off with cosmological thoughts towards the end of human civilization as we know it. Today, the discovery of the entropy of black holes, remaining with us until the end of the world, and Hawking radiation is considered as milestone in attempts to create a quantum theory of gravity. We are terrified of the black hole collapsing space. Once you fall into a black hole, you can't stay still, everything flies towards the center, including space itself. Gravity pulls us into the so-called singularity, which is a one-dimensional, infinitely small space with an unimaginably large mass, all at the speed of light. A black hole is a well in which tidal forces are probably at work inside. According to another theory, there is also a white hole, which would be an area where energy and matter flow from the singularity. And so the gas and the dust of the universe undergoes cosmic revolutions. Research so far has not confirmed the existence of white holes. As you can see, I still play with cosmic considerations sometimes, but I turn to them when I don't have angular momentum. But Adrem, space is collapsing in a black hole. There, the singularity occupies the smallest space. The center of black hole, an infinite number of tons. There is a legend that Einstein always slept with teaspoons bedside table, probably because the scientist had the infinite number of tons of black holes constantly in his mind. Einstein was in love with the beauty of the universe, although he questioned his belief in God. For me, the word God is only an expression and product of human weaknesses, wrote Einstein. The Bible is a collection of venerable but still quite primitive legends. Quote end. The above-mentioned Stephen Hawking planned his flight into space, which however did not take place. When asked why he wanted to go into space, Hawking replied in a somewhat futuristic tone, "Many people have asked me that. Before we discovered many of the laws of science, it was natural to believe that God created the universe. Now, however, science offers much more convincing explanations." Quote end. Is the universe ending? The Hubble probe was launched in 1989. In 2003, it was the turn of the WMAP probe, and in mid-May this year, they were joined by the European Planck probe. This included, among others, the research shows that the universe is finite and closed, but there is no limit. What is at the end of the universe? You would have to observe the number of light years, 1 and 100 zeros, that will pass from now to the last object in the universe. Supermassive black holes will evaporate by Hawking radiation. After this event, the universe will enter the so-called dark age, in which there will no longer be any matter. What happened before the creation of the world? Before the Big Bang, cosmological inflation took place. It lasted a trillionth of the second. But at that time, matter wintered began to expand rapidly before the Big Bang. Processes took over, slowed the expansion, and led to the diversification of the nascent universe. The world, as we know, it is three-dimensional. We assign material objects widths, heights, and depths. After taking time into account, we get the four-dimensional space-time in which we live. Over the last dozen or so years, physicists have argued that the world actually has more dimensions, 10, 11, and maybe even 26. What will the end of the universe look like? Space will be almost completely dark, I said, littered with black holes and the remnants of stars that have long since burned out. It's going to be a kind of sad, lonely, and cold place. We have already learned to segregate our earthly waste, I console myself sometimes. In the 4th century of Christianity, Bishop Augustine of Hippo stated, "As long as you fight, you are victorious. Where God is first, everything is in its place. Here I tell you, life terrified me because I didn't want to walk through it being only half of myself. Maybe that's why I was so afraid of dying, lest the one I loved so much, Jesus of Nazareth, no longer die with me. Today, after leaving the synagogue and healing, Gospel of today, healing Peter's mother-in-law, Jesus found himself among the people. Christ does not so much teach as announce. He announces the kingdom of God. So, I wish all my readers, since Jesus God and I have chosen Jerusalem as the place of our fulfillment, that from now on our real occupation will be to achieve eternal happiness in heaven. And until the next meeting,